Hello everyone. It's a nice friendly audience and my voice sounds really weird. Today I want to talk about encouraging independent learners and overcoming something called learned helplessness. I think everybody in this audience, every parent in this audience wants your child or your children to become those things that I have up on the slide. Problem solvers, creative thinkers, lifelong learners. We all want that for our children. But sometimes the harder that we try, the more we push, the more we help, the more our children struggle. Sometimes it actually makes them more helpless, more hopeless. But it's not because our kids are inherently lazy or stubborn or lack the ability to succeed. But rather, in many cases, maybe all of these cases, it's a case that the child has learned helplessness. So today I want to talk about overcoming learned helplessness. I want to talk about how some of the things that we do as parents to help our kids actually hinders that progress, can actually hold them back from being independent learners. And I want to talk about suggestions or ways that you can actually encourage independent, confident, purposeful, creative, engaged thinkers and learners, which I think we all want for ourselves, for those students here in the audience. Okay, so I keep using this term, learned helplessness. What is the term learned helplessness? It's a psychological concept developed decades ago, and you probably have heard your kid say some of these things like, I can't do it. The teacher hates me. I'm dumb. I don't understand anything. I know as a teacher I've heard that one 100 times. My parents think I'm a failure. I am a failure. Kids say these kinds of things because they have a perception, an idea, a belief about themselves. And those statements are all evidence of learned helplessness. They believe that no matter what they do, the outcome will always be negative. They feel powerless to overcome the negative outcomes. They believe that their failures in school are either because of low ability or bad luck, which is not true. They get to a point sometimes where they don't even bother because they've just failed so many times. They've struggled so many times, and it just doesn't seem to get any easier. What we see as parents is a lack of motivation. Our kids don't care. Maybe they're not even trying. They just stop and get stubborn. So we see this, we see on one side, as the parent side, we see the kids' lack of motivation and disengagement and refusing to make an effort. But if we dig down deep, what we see is a belief the child has this feeling, a deep down feeling of helplessness, that no matter what they do, it's not going to matter. They have become detached. They perceive that failure is out of their control. This becomes a learning style. They become reluctant to seek help. They will not necessarily, they have low expectations, they expect to fail. Or they're just so afraid of failing that they don't try, because if I didn't do it, then I failed only because I didn't do it, not because I lacked the ability to do it. But what happens, what's causing this is that the students often not lack control, they perceive they lack control, but what they actually lack is learning strategies. They don't know, for example, that if they use a plan or a checklist or make drawings, that doing a math problem or writing a paper will be so much easier. They remember when they have failed in the past, they believe it's because either they lack the ability or it's just bad luck. The test was too hard, the assignment was too hard. But again, I want to reiterate that it's often a lack of learning strategies and a lack of confidence. They don't even dare ask for help because they think it's their fault that they don't understand. And sometimes it's just that they haven't had that experience before. Something that I always tell my students is, if you don't make a mistake, you don't learn. And they're afraid, remember, they're afraid of failing, so they don't want to make those steps. So as parents and teachers, we have to guide them and help them overcome that fear in order to help them learn learning strategies, learn to ask for help when they need it. Overall, this problem is a problem of perception. Children think they're failures, they think they lack ability. So for us as parents, we think, okay, I'm going to encourage my student and I'm going to tell my kid, you're awesome. I'm going to load up the praise, because if I praise my kid, that's going to help them so much. I'm going to motivate them by praising. What do you think? Does that work? Praising kids, is that going to be like the first thing you're going to do to help them believe in themselves? Not so fast, because praise has a dark side. Actually, too much praise and the wrong kind of praise can actually work backwards. It can backfire. If you give children too much praise, it can create pressure. For example, if they got it right that one time, then they might feel like they always have to achieve that same level of success. The other problem is too much praise becomes empty and meaningless. If we always say, good job, bravo, for every little thing a child does, it becomes pointless. It becomes meaningless. So we have to be careful with praise. Praise is really important to changing a child's perception of himself or herself, but we have to do it right. So instead of just saying good job or bribing the kid to get a better grade, these are 3 strategies that I would recommend based on research, not just my own experience, but also based on research. The first thing is praise the strategy that the child is using, not the outcome, not the result. We want to get back to teaching them learning strategies, so praise the strategy. You really found a good way to do it. Maybe the outcome's imperfect. Maybe the result's not good, but they used a good strategy. So praise the way the child has tackled the problem, even if they get it wrong. Okay, again, as I told you, I tell my students all the time, if you do it and you get it wrong, you're still going to learn something. Okay? The second thing, praise with specificity. In other words, don't just use these broad platitudes of good job, because that's meaningless. Be as specific as you can, so that the student knows that even just a teeny bit of improvement is praiseworthy. You seem to really understand fractions. It's specific and it's small. And part of overcoming learned helplessness is helping the children understand that even a tiny, tiny bit of improvement is something to celebrate, something to feel, so that they realize that it's in their control, not outside of them. It's something that they do, some strategies that they will practice. And the third one is praise effort. This one I cannot emphasize enough. No matter what grades your kids bring home, if they have tried their best, they deserve praise. In this day and age, we put so much pressure on scores, test scores and grades, and we lose sight of the fact that sometimes that's the best that a child can do. And if we always expect more from the child, a higher grade, but we forget about the level of effort that goes into getting that grade, then we're not going to help. We need to focus on, if our children are doing their best, whatever their best is, that deserves praise, regardless of what the actual the end grade is. Praise the effort. I can tell you've been practicing. You know, when a child is learning a new instrument and it sounds horrible and it makes your ears bleed, but they're practicing and they're working hard, that deserves praise. The most important thing, be sincere. Don't just say good job if it's not really a good job. Find something specific, a strategy, an effort to praise. Observe, ask, and comment. So it's not just about praising. The second thing that we have to do is criticize. Now that might seem kind of odd. I'm saying we want to change kids' perceptions about themselves so they become confident in themselves. So why would we criticize? No. Criticism has a really important role in helping children overcome learned helplessness. But it has to be, just like praise, it has to be the right kind of criticism. The first kind of criticism, where you say, I'm disappointed in you, That is not the kind of criticism I'm talking about, because that's going to help, it's going to make the kid feel even more of a failure. So definitely not person criticism. And in fact, when researchers have done studies, this type of criticism basically makes the kid feel like, why should I even bother? And that's exactly what we're trying to overcome. The other two types of criticism, outcome criticism, that's not the right way to do it. You did not apply the right strategy. That's helpful because it teaches the student that it's on them, that the outcome is based on the strategies they employ. So you're guiding them, you're not criticizing them as a person, but you're trying to guide them back to using the right strategies. But it's not the best kind of criticism. The best criticism is the process criticism. Maybe you could think of another way to do it. In other words, it's not over and done. What can we learn from this? When you focus on the entire process, not just the strategy, but the entire approach to doing something, thinking about what we can learn from this in the future, then it becomes constructive, positive criticism. So criticism is really helpful as long as it has a purpose. In other words, as a parent or as a teacher, when you give criticism, you're trying to give guidance, strategies, set standards, give the child a purpose. Basically, what our children need are encouragement, criticism. They also need space and resources. If you want to help your child feel in control and confident, make sure that they have a space at home that's quiet, where they have all the resources, so they don't have to feel like a failure because they didn't have the right kind of paper. As a parent, it's your job to make sure they have all of the resources they need. It's not your job to do the project for them, but it is your job to go out and buy the paper, make sure they have a desk with lighting, glasses if they need it, okay? All of those little things add up. Structure and guidance. Help them develop study skills, strategies. Encourage them to use a process when writing. Give them a set homework time every single day. Kids don't automatically learn those things. Every once in a while, there's that one child that's really special, that's super responsible and does everything right. There's not that many kids like that. Most kids need the structure and the guidance of a routine. Come home, do your homework, and then you can play on the PlayStation. You want to go to your training at the club? Get your homework done first. Structure and guidance. When it comes time for tests, teach your child how to study. Show them how to take notes. There are lots of things that you did as a child in school that you can help your child with. All those study skills that helped you make it through college, sit down and show your child those study skills. And the most important thing is every child needs an opportunity to fail and to succeed. Now, at the beginning we talked about constant failure can lead to this feeling of why even bother? You want to give your child opportunities to fail. Choose those opportunities well. Give them an opportunity to make a mistake that they can fix. Something like, let them try cooking a simple meal. Perhaps their meal might not be the best meal ever, but they'll have learned something about reading, following directions, gathering the right amounts, fractions. There's a lot that can be learned by just giving your child freedom in the kitchen. And obviously you want to give them opportunities to succeed too. Whether at school or at home, giving them little tasks to do, making sure they feel responsible for keeping their room clean. All of those things go into the whole child. And that's something that's really important, is when you're looking for a school, look for a school that tries to educate the whole child. You might think it's strange I'm talking about education and cooking and cleaning your room, but I believe they all go together. When a child feels responsible and feels in control, they're going to be more successful. Believe in your child, show them that you have faith. You don't show your child that you have faith by fixing every problem for them. You show them you have faith in them by allowing them to fail sometimes. Let them solve their problem. When your child is struggling to tie their shoes, don't jump in and tie their shoes for them. Ask your child what he or she needs. Often we assume as parents that we know best what our kids need. I know I do that a lot, and it's a big mistake. We have to listen. It has to be a two-way relationship. Ask kids, what they need. And by what they need, it could be a better desk lamp, a more comfortable chair, or it might just be a hug. But we have to have those communication lines open. When our kids come home with a bad grade, don't just jump down their throat and start yelling at them. Maybe they're already beating themselves up. Maybe they're already disappointed. So you have to be there to listen and support them. I just wanted to end with a concrete example of what you can do as a parent, because pretty much every parent here is going to have the dreaded project. And what do you do when you have a project? Well, so if you're trying to help your child to be an independent learner, the things on the left are the things that you can do to help your child become more independent. The things on the right, you're actually harming them and hindering them from learning. So at the stage of the project where you're just asking a question, you might discuss the question with your child. Make sure they understand the assignment. Ask them questions about how feasible. Okay, well, are we going to be able to get all that done in 2 weeks? So you're asking, but letting the child make the decisions. Hindering your child would be to pick the idea for the science project and say, here's a great idea, this is what you should do, okay? That's not helping. It's easier for the child, but you're not helping. At the investigation stage, when they're doing the actual research, actually helping the child come up with keywords for the internet search, taking them to the library, if there's a bookstore, for example, taking them out to get information, taking them to interview people, that's helping. What's not helping is actually doing the search for them, printing out the articles for them, highlighting things in the article for them. And the connection, where they start to connect the information, the third stage of the project, asking them about the hypothesis, asking them to explain the hypothesis. How does this hypothesis relate to what you've done so far? That's helping them. But if you actually suggest the hypothesis or actually do the experiment, you're not helping. You're hindering your child. You're actually holding them back from becoming an independent learner. And finally, at the time of creation, this is the time when a lot of parents just, it's so hard not to just get in there and help yourself. Ask them, how are you going to report it? So are you going to do a poster board? Are you going to do a presentation? Ask them questions, but don't tell them how to do it. And certainly, don't do it for them. Ask them if they make suggestions. Well, did you think about doing a spreadsheet? If they say, no, I don't want to do it, let it go. It's their project, okay? Even something as simple as choosing this color scheme, because you don't like the color scheme, just let it go. So at the end of the day, if you want to help your child become an independent learner, and you want them to be successful and proud, the best thing you can do is let them make their own mistakes, let them learn from those mistakes, and always be there to support them and praise their effort in everything they do. Thank you.